Right after the SATs, I went to our senior prom. At the party, I took a single drink and blacked out completely. When I woke up, I was lying naked in Ethan's bed. And Chloe, our school's resident mean girl, was holding a camera right in my face, snapping photos. "You have no idea how pathetic and desperate you looked last night," she sneered. The other classmates gathered in the hotel room burst into a chorus of nasty laughter. Then Ethan, my childhood best friend whom I grew up with, tossed a giant t-shirt at me. "Are you stupid? Didn't you know that drink was spiked with a roofie?" Tears streamed down my face. I didn't even dare to ask what had actually happened last night. Ethan looked at me with pure disgust. "Forget it. Chloe was just playing a joke. Don't look so victimized. With you looking like a fat pig, what guy would actually want to touch you?" At that exact moment, my 10-year-old crush on Ethan died a brutal death. Ethan's shirt was huge, fitting me like a baggy dress. Chloe held the camera, lightly kicking a husky lying on the floor with her sneaker. Look at how she was hugging this dog last night. Kissing it and rubbing all over it. It was hilarious. I've never seen anyone get horny over a dog before. A few people laughed along, but their voices quickly quieted down. Some classmates stole glances at me, looking a bit uneasy but saying nothing. Ethan poured a glass of warm water and walked over. I reached out to take it, but he bypassed my hand and handed it directly to Chloe. "Rinse your mouth. You've laughed your throat hoarse." Chloe took the glass and winked at me maliciously. "My bad, April. Maybe the joke went a little too far. But seriously, I didn't think you'd actually drink it." The cup literally had a sticky note that said, "Don't drink." I kept my mouth shut. There was indeed a cup on the table, and the sticky note on it was now soggy and illegible. But last night, that cup had been handed to me by Ethan. He had grabbed it from the table and shoved it into my hands. "Drink up, your face is super red." Only after I took 2 big gulps did he lazily add, "Oh, actually, I think I grabbed the wrong one." Chloe had led the applause then, and everyone cheered. I hadn't realized what was happening in my hazy state. And after that, my memory went completely blank. The next morning, my photos spread like wildfire across our school's Snapchat groups. Me, hugging a husky, clothes disheveled, face twisted in tears. The caption read, "One night for $100. Best deal in town." There were over 300 people in that group chat. Ethan was one of them. He didn't leave the group. He didn't say a single word to stop them. He only sent me one private message. "Don't take it too seriously." I stared at those 5 words all night. I never replied. On the day we had to go back to school to sign our final college enrollment forms, I wore an oversized black t-shirt. I tried my best to blend into the shadows. But the moment I walked into the classroom, someone let out a loud whistle. "Hey look, the dog girl is here." Whispers and giggles erupted, elbows digging into ribs. I walked to my desk. Carved deeply into the wooden surface were 4 words. "Fat pig for slaughter." I didn't know when they had carved it, but the gashes were deep. I covered it up with a piece of scrap paper. Chloe sat diagonally in front of me. She turned around with a sweet smile. "April, which college are you committing to?" "Ethan and I are both going to Harvard. Why don't you come with us?" She wrapped her arm around Ethan's, leaning her head on his shoulder. "Once we're in college, we can still look out for you." Ethan kept his head down, flipping through his college paperwork, not looking at me once. A guy sitting nearby scoffed. "Why would she go to Harvard? Does the dining hall need someone to clear out the trash cans?" The classroom burst into laughter. Ethan finally looked up and said quietly, "That's enough." His voice wasn't loud, but the laughter died down instantly. Chloe pouted. "It was just a joke, Ethan. You're always so protective of her." Ethan didn't reply. Instead, he turned around to look at me. "What happened to your leg?" I froze. His eyes fell on my knees. I had tripped on the stairs yesterday, scraping off a patch of skin and leaving a massive, ugly purple bruise. My cropped pants couldn't hide it. "It's nothing," I said flatly. "Did you put ointment on it?" "Yes." He dug a fresh tube of ointment out of his backpack and tossed it onto my desk. "This is new. Put it on twice a day." Seeing this, Chloe snatched at it. "I want some too. I scraped my knee yesterday too." Ethan pinned her hand down. "Like hell you did. Who was the one whining for me to carry them up the stairs last night?" Chloe giggled, her voice dripping with honey. "Then you should carry April too. Her leg is actually hurt." Ethan stayed silent. Chloe chuckled nastily. "Oh, right. You can't carry her. She's too heavy." Ha. Her laughter was shrill, sounding like nails on a chalkboard. I ripped open the packaging of the ointment, squeezed a bit out, and slowly dabbed it onto my knee. It felt cold, then it began to sting. Ethan turned to me again. "Seriously, which school are you choosing?" "I haven't decided yet." "Stop overthinking." "Harvard." "Have you signed the acceptance form?" "Yes." "Which choice is it?" "My top choice." He nodded, looking visibly relieved. "Good. Your GPA is just enough to get in. Don't waste your potential on some local community college. Chloe chipped in, going to community college is fine too. At least she'd be close to home to cook for her mom. I remained silent. Ethan shot Chloe a warning look, and Chloe stuck her tongue out. What? Did I say something wrong? Her mom literally runs a cheap little diner. Though, honestly, her pork stew is actually pretty good. The bell rang. Mrs. Gable walked in to distribute the official, triplicate enrollment confirmation forms. Once we signed the bottom of these printed sheets, our college decisions were legally locked in and unchangeable. The classroom went dead quiet, filled only with the scratching of pens. My fingers gripped my pen so tightly they turned white. Ethan leaned over and whispered, "Let me check yours before you sign. Don't make a mistake." I didn't acknowledge him. He began writing his own name in his signature, messy cursive. Chloe copied his choices, writing slowly, a step behind him. Just then, Chloe's phone buzzed loudly. She picked it up, her loud voice echoing through the quiet room. "Hey, Mom." "Yeah, I'm signing my college forms right now." "What?" "Oh, you mean April's photos?" "That wasn't me. I don't know who leaked them to the group chat." She chuckled into the receiver. "Oh my God, seriously, it has nothing to do with me. I just filmed the video, I didn't post it. I only showed it to Ethan. He was the one laughing his head off at it." Several classmates turned their heads to look at me, then quickly looked back down. Some were shaking their shoulders, trying desperately to hold in their giggles. Ethan's hand froze mid-stroke. He shot Chloe a frustrated look, then turned to soothe me. "I need to go to the office for a second. Just ignore her. She's just acting like a dumb girl. The drama will blow over in a couple of days." I stopped writing. I stared at the back of Chloe's head. She was still on the phone, her voice getting louder and more arrogant. "Seriously, Mom, you should have heard her. She was moaning so loud while hugging that husky. No guy would ever touch her. No one would take her even if she paid them $100. All right, I'll stop. I'll show you the video when I get home tonight. It's comedy gold." I stood up. My chair legs scraped against the floor, making a sharp, screeching sound. The classroom fell dead silent. Chloe turned around, her phone still pressed to her ear. "What?" I walked over to her. I stopped right in front of her desk. Then, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. The loud, crisp crack echoed off the walls. Chloe was completely stunned. Her phone flew out of her hand, the screen shattering as it hit the floor. She clutched her cheek, her eyes wide with shock, her mouth open but unable to make a sound. Everyone was staring. The air in the room froze solid. My voice sounded incredibly calm, even to my own ears. "That first slap is for your parents, since they clearly failed to raise you. A mouth is meant for speaking human words, not spewing trash." Chloe finally snapped out of her shock. She bolted up, knocking her chair backward. She was half a head taller than me, and she shoved me hard. "You slapped me? You bitch, you dare slap me?" The shove sent me stumbling back, my back slamming painfully into the edge of a desk. A sharp ache flared up, but I took a step forward anyway. I raised my hand again and delivered a second slap. This time she tried to dodge, but my palm caught her hard across the ear, sending her stumbling sideways. Pens and papers on her desk went flying everywhere. "This second slap is for myself. You filmed me, posted my photos, and humiliated me for 3 straight days. Did you think it was funny?" I glared at her, my eyes burning, but I refused to let a single tear fall. "Is it still funny now?" Chloe clutched both sides of her face, her eyes welling with tears as she screamed at the top of her lungs, "Ethan!" The classroom door was pushed open. Ethan walked back in, holding some papers he had just printed from the main office. The moment he saw the chaos, his face darkened completely. "What the hell is going on?" Chloe lunged at him, grabbing his arm desperately. "She hit me. She's completely insane, Ethan. She hit me." Ethan looked at the red handprints blooming on her cheeks, then turned his gaze to me. "You slapped her?" I looked him straight in the eyes. "She deserved it." His expression shifted from disbelief to cold anger. "I told you, Chloe was just joking. Why are you making such a big deal out of this? Nothing actually happened to you that night anyway." Ethan had beautiful eyes and a perfectly straight nose. When he spoke, his Adam's apple bobbed. I used to think every single part of him was designed perfectly to fit my heart. Now, all I felt was a dull, heavy ache. A joke? She called me a fat pig for 3 days, and I ignored it. She set me up, and I let it slide. She filmed me and put it online, and did you say a single word? Ethan frowned. Chloe filmed the video, yes, but she wasn't the one who posted it to the group chat. It was her mom who accidentally forwarded it. I let out a cold, cynical laugh. She literally just said on the phone that she only showed it to you. Ethan's face went rigid. Chloe gripped his arm even tighter. "Ethan, I didn't say that. She's lying." Ethan glanced at her, then back at me. His lips parted, but all he said was, even if she did, you shouldn't have resorted to violence. I nodded slowly. Right. I shouldn't have hit her. I should have kept quiet, kept being your little punching bag and your favorite joke. For 3 years in high school, you guys gave me cruel nicknames, hid my homework, and stuffed trash into my locker. On my birthday, she gifted me weight loss pills while you stood there laughing. When I gave my speech on stage, she led the crowd in booing me off, and you stood by doing absolutely nothing. Ethan, I used to think you were just bad at expressing yourself. I actually believed that deep down, you cared about me. My voice began to tremble. When you handed me that drink last night, did you know what was in it? Ethan didn't say a word. His silence was my answer. I inhaled deeply and nodded. I see. I turned around and walked back to my desk. I picked up the enrollment confirmation form. Are you finished signing? Ethan's voice called out from behind me. I ignored him. He spoke again, his tone carrying that usual, arrogant sense of authority. Don't throw a tantrum. Your college choice affects your entire life. If you aren't with me at Harvard, I worry you won't. He sounded so casual, as if the conflict we just had was nothing but a minor lover's spat. I folded the paper and slipped it into my pocket. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mom. I picked it up and walked to the very end of the hallway to answer. Hey, Mom. April, sweetie, have you signed the form? You're going to Harvard, right? My mom's voice sounded exhausted from her long shift at the diner, but it was incredibly warm. Don't worry about the money. I'll take on extra shifts. We can afford the tuition. Ethan is going to Harvard too, right? Since you two grew up together, you can look out for each other. I leaned against the wall, staring up at the ceiling. Tears fell, hot and heavy, onto the floor. I couldn't bring myself to answer because I didn't want her to hear me crying. I quickly hung up. I walked back into the classroom. Ethan was standing right by my desk, holding his signed enrollment sheet. Here, he said, handing it to me. I took it and glanced at it. First choice, Harvard University. Major, computer science. The second choice line was left blank. He had only filled out one option. Fill yours out the exact same way. Don't overthink it. Your GPA is a guaranteed lock for Harvard. I stared at his handwriting. The ink was barely dry. Chloe was back in her seat, pressing a wet paper towel to her cheek. She glared at me, muttering under her breath, psycho. Like a rabid dog. Ethan turned to her. Shut up, Chloe. Chloe went quiet, but rolled her eyes dramatically. Mrs. Gable walked back into the room. All right, class, listen up. Once you sign this form, it's final. It cannot be changed. We have 20 minutes before the portal closes. Get them to my desk. She stood at the podium and began collecting the sheets. I walked straight up to the front, grabbed a pen from the teacher's desk, and laid my paper down flat. The system would lock in 5 minutes. I raised the pen and drew a heavy, brutal line right through Harvard University. I scribbled over it so hard that the paper made a sharp scratching sound. What are you doing? Ethan lunged forward, grabbing my wrist in a tight grip. Are you insane? I ripped my hand away from his grasp. Mrs. Gable stood up immediately. Ethan, do not interfere with other students' enrollment forms. Ethan ignored her, his eyes locked onto mine. April, where are you committing? I didn't say a word. I kept writing. He reached out to snatch the paper away from me. I dodged, my wrist slamming hard against the sharp corner of the podium. A jolt of pain shot up my arm. Where the hell are you going? He roared. The entire classroom stared at us in shock. Chloe stood up, her face filled with confusion. I finished writing. I slapped the paper down onto Mrs. Gable's desk. I signed my name. And pressed my thumbprint on the seal. Mrs. Gable looked at the paper, then looked up at me in shock. Are you sure about this, April? Yes. All right. It's submitted. The computer let out a soft beep. The enrollment portal was officially closed. Ethan stood by the podium, his face a mask of absolute disbelief. I walked down the steps, trying to pass him. He grabbed my arm roughly. April. You. I looked down at his hand, then up at his face. Let go of me. He didn't budge. I forced his fingers off my arm, one by one. Is all of this really necessary? Just over a stupid joke, he snapped. I slung my backpack over my shoulder and walked toward the exit. Chloe's mocking voice rang out from behind. Oh, look at her playing hard to get. Does she seriously think this is going to make you chase her, Ethan? Just let her go. She'll come crawling back in a couple of days anyway. Before I could even cross the threshold of the door, Ethan took 2 giant strides, caught up to me, and yanked my wrist back. The force of his pull spun me halfway around. Where did you commit? April. Answer me. His eyes were bloodshot, his face contorted in a rage I had never seen before. Chloe swaggered over, standing right behind him with her arms crossed. Forget it, Ethan. Where else could she possibly go? Probably that cheap state school down south. She's just putting on a show to scare you. She laughed nastily. Look at her legs. She walks like a penguin. I struggled to free my wrist, but I couldn't. Ethan's hand was like an iron shackle. I stopped fighting and stared directly into his eyes. Ethan, what makes you think I would ever want to go to the same university as you? He froze. Because I tutored you? Because I vouched for you to the teachers? Or because I used to love you? His entire face went rigid. As I spoke those last words, I felt something that had been built over 10 long years finally shatter into pieces. Someone called Ethan's name from the end of the hallway. It sounded like one of his friends from the other class. Chloe pushed past me, grabbing Ethan's hand. Ethan, leave her. Let's go. Ethan stood frozen, letting her pull him back a step, his eyes still glued to me. Seeing his hesitation, Chloe decided to twist the knife. Oh, by the way, her mom just posted a screenshot in the community group chat, asking what those photos were about. Want to see? Her mom seems pretty furious. She held up her phone, showing a Snapchat chat window with my mother's username. My mom had forwarded the photo Chloe leaked, followed by 3 question marks. Below it was our home address pinned on the map. My blood ran cold instantly. You promised you wouldn't send it to my mom, I whispered, my voice trembling. Chloe shrugged. I didn't send it to her. She saw it in the public group chat herself. My mom was the one who posted it there, and I couldn't stop her. Not my fault. I looked at her face. The left side of her cheek was swollen, but her lips were curled into a smug, victorious grin. She was thoroughly enjoying my terror. It was all just a show to her. Ethan stood right next to her, completely silent. My mouth opened, but no words came out. I turned and walked away. One step at a time, I headed down the concrete stairs. This was the hallway I had walked for 3 years, yet it had never felt this long. Behind me, Ethan's voice boomed. April. I didn't stop. Heavy, panicked footsteps chased after me. Stop right there. A hand grabbed my shoulder from behind, yanking me backward. I lost my balance. My foot slipped off the edge of the step. The sharp edge of the concrete step slammed hard into my shin bone. An agonizing pain shot up my leg. I let out a choked gasp as my body fell backward. Ethan's grip on my shoulder vanished. I didn't know if he had let go out of shock, or if I had simply slipped out of his grasp. All I knew was that I was falling. My head slammed violently against the concrete step with a sickening thud. Then my shoulders, my back, and my hips battered against the stairs, step by step. My body rolled down like a heavy sack of sand, completely out of control. Finally, I came to a stop on the landing of the first floor. The world went dead silent for a few seconds. Then, the screaming started. Someone upstairs screamed at the top of their lungs, "Oh my God." She fell down the stairs. The darkness didn't come all at once. It leaked in through the edges of my vision, cold and heavy, smelling of floor wax and the metallic tang of blood. The screaming above me sounded distant, like it was happening underwater. I heard a frantic scraping of sneakers on concrete, someone running down the stairs, and then a shadow blocked out the harsh fluorescent light of the ceiling. April. April, wake up. Please, oh my God, April. It was Ethan's voice. But the arrogance was gone, replaced by a high, cracking panic that made him sound like a child. Hands grabbed my shoulders, shaking me. Every movement sent a jagged bolt of agony through my skull, hot and white hot, making my stomach heave. Don't touch her. Don't move her. Mrs. Gable's voice boomed from the top of the landing, breathless and terrified. Ethan, step away from her right now. Someone. Call 911. Now. I didn't mean to, Ethan whispered. I could feel his breath on my face, fast and shallow. I just wanted her to stop. I didn't push her. She slipped. Chloe. Tell them she slipped. But Chloe didn't answer. When I managed to slit my eyes open through the swelling pressure in my left temple, I saw her standing halfway up the staircase. Her face, usually so perfectly made up, was pale as chalk. The red handprints from my slaps were still blooming across her cheeks, but the smug triumph had vanished. She was staring at the dark pool of red spreading from beneath my head onto the gray concrete landing. I have to go, Chloe stammered, her voice trembling. I didn't do anything. I wasn't even near her. She turned and ran back up the stairs, her heavy platform sneakers echoing like gunshots through the hallway. April, look at me, Ethan pleaded. His hands were shaking violently as he tried to press a clean paper towel against my head. The white paper turned crimson. Instantly. Please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Just tell them it was an accident. We're going to Harvard together, remember? We have a plan. You can't do this. I wanted to laugh, but the effort of even breathing felt like my chest was filled with broken glass. Even now, with my blood on his hands, he was thinking about his plan. His Harvard. His future. The world tilted violently, and the blackness finally rushed in, swallowing his terrified face whole. The smell of ozone and bleach was the first thing that returned. Then, the rhythmic, electronic beep of a heart monitor. My body felt incredibly heavy, as if I had been poured into a mold of solid lead. When I tried to move my left leg, a sharp, throbbing ache flared up from my knee down to my ankle, dragging a low groan from my throat. April? Oh, my sweet girl. A warm, rough hand immediately clasped mine. I forced my eyelids open. The harsh glare of a hospital room slowly resolved into a familiar, tired face. My mother was sitting on the edge of a plastic chair, her eyes bloodshot, her hair messy, and tied back with a cheap rubber band. She still wore her faded blue apron from the diner, stained with grease and flour. Mom, I croaked. My throat felt like it was coated in sand. She quickly reached for a plastic cup with a straw, holding it to my lips. The cold water was the best thing I had ever tasted. The doctor said you have a severe concussion, a fractured tibia, and 3 cracked ribs, my mom whispered, her voice cracking as she smoothed a stray lock of hair from my forehead. They had to put 4 stitches in your scalp. April. What happened? The school called and said you tripped. But the police. The police? I echoed, the fog in my brain parting slightly. They're outside, she said, her expression hardening in a way I had rarely seen. My mother was a gentle woman who spent her life apologizing for things that weren't her fault, but right now, her jaw was set like iron. A detective. From the juvenile division. He said some students gave statements that didn't match what the school administration was saying. He's waiting for you to wake up. I closed my eyes, remembering the stairs. Remembering the iron grip on my shoulder. Ethan pushed me, I said flatly. He grabbed me, and when I tried to get away, he pulled me back so hard I lost my footing. My mother's hand tightened around mine until it hurt. That boy we let into our home. The one I made lunch for every Sunday. I went to his house. April. The moment the hospital called, I went to find his parents. Do you know what his mother told me? I looked at her. She offered to pay for your medical bills, my mom said, her voice shaking with a mixture of rage and disgust. She hand-delivered a check for $10,000 to the front desk here. She said, kids play too rough sometimes, and it's a shame April's clumsiness might ruin Ethan's enrollment. She called it a settlement. A cold, dry chuckle escaped my throat, though it hurt my ribs to do so. $10,000. Is that what my life is worth to them? I tore the check up in front of her face, my mom said, tears finally spilling over her cheeks. I threw it at her. I don't care if we have to work the rest of our lives to pay off this hospital. They are not buying their way out of this. Just then, a soft knock sounded on the door. It pushed open, and a middle-aged man in a charcoal suit walked in. He had a tired, observant face and carried a small leather notebook. Mrs. Miller? April, he asked gently. I'm Detective Vance. I'm very sorry to disturb you, but we need to take a statement while the events are still fresh. I looked at my mother, who gave me a firm nod. Go ahead, detective, I said. I'll tell you everything. For the next hour, I didn't hold back. I started from the night of the prom, the spiked drink, the waking up in Ethan's bed, the photos Chloe took, the Snapchat group chat with over 300 students, and finally, the confrontation in the classroom. I told him about the enrollment forms, how Ethan tried to force me to sign for Harvard, and how he chased me down the stairs when I refused. Detective Vance wrote everything down, his pen scratching rhythmically against the paper. His expression remained professional, but I saw the muscles in his jaw tighten when I mentioned the Snapchat group and the photo captioned, "One night for $100. Do you have access to these photos or the group chat, April?" Vance asked. I didn't save them, I said. But almost every senior in our school is in that group. And Chloe's mother apparently posted the screenshot into the local community Facebook group yesterday morning. Vance nodded. We already have officers securing a warrant for the digital records from Snapchat servers. And we've already detained Ethan's phone for evidence. He was still at the school when the paramedics arrived, and several witnesses pointed him out. Is he in jail? I asked. He was booked and released on bail to his parents, Vance said, closing his notebook. Because he's 18, he will be charged as an adult. Based on your statement and the physical evidence on the stairs, we are looking at second-degree assault, reckless endangerment, and potentially charges related to The non-consensual distribution of intimate imagery, depending on what our digital forensics team finds on his and Chloe's devices. He stood up, adjusting his jacket. Get some rest, April. You've been very brave. We'll handle the rest. When the door clicked shut, the silence of the hospital room felt different. It didn't feel like the heavy, suffocating silence of my bedroom after the prom. It felt like the quiet before a storm. 2 days later, the storm broke. Because our town was small, news traveled like wildfire. But this wasn't just a local gossip story anymore. A sophomore who had been hiding in the stairwell to skip class had recorded a 5-second video of the argument on their phone. The video didn't catch the actual fall, but it caught Ethan screaming, "Where the hell are you going?" and violently jerking my arm, followed by the sound of my body tumbling down the concrete steps and his face freezing in horror. That video was leaked on TikTok. Within 24 hours, it had over 2 million views. The caption read, "Golden Boy Ivy League commit pushes childhood friend downstairs after she refuses him." The internet did what it always did, it dug deep. Within 48 hours, Chloe's Snapchat photos of me, the cyberbullying group chats, and the identity of our school, Oak Ridge High, were fully exposed. The outrage was monumental. Users flooded Oak Ridge High's social media pages, demanding the expulsion of Ethan and Chloe. But more importantly, they targeted the admissions office of Harvard University. My mom sat by my hospital bed, showing me her phone. The official Harvard Twitter account was being bombarded with thousands of comments. Is this the kind of student you accept? At Harvard, expel Ethan and Chloe. No room for rapists, bullies, and abusers. Hashtag justice for April. I stared at the screen, my heart beating in a strange, hollow rhythm. For years, Ethan and Chloe had seemed invincible. They were the popular kids, the wealthy kids, the ones whose parents donated new scoreboards to the high school football field. I had spent years believing that their cruelty was just something I had to endure because the world belonged to people like them. Now, their perfect world was cracking under the weight of their own actions. On the third day, the hospital door opened, and a nurse walked in with a massive bouquet of lilies. "These were left at the front desk for you, dear," she said, setting them on the nightstand. I looked at the card attached to the plastic wrap. It was written in elegant, shaky cursive. "April, please. We need to talk. My parents are forcing me to stay inside, but I need you to know I never wanted this to happen. It was a mistake. We can fix this. Just tell the police it was a misunderstanding. Please call me Ethan." I didn't call him. Instead, I picked up the bouquet and threw it directly into the trash can beside my bed. "Mom," I said, looking out the window at the gray sky. "Can you bring me my laptop?" "Why, sweetie? You need to rest." "I need to check the enrollment portal," I said. The school board said the triplicate physical forms were scanned and uploaded by the principal before the portal locked. My mom looked hesitant, but she reached into her bag and pulled out my old, dented Chromebook. I opened it, my fingers trembling slightly as I logged into the state's unified higher education portal. When the page loaded, my breath caught in my throat. There was my name, April Miller. Underneath it, the status read, enrollment confirmed. And next to institution, it didn't say Harvard. It didn't say the local community college either. It read, Yale University. Major, biochemistry, pre-med track. Full tuition. Academic scholarship. My mom leaned over my shoulder, staring at the screen. A slow, beautiful smile spread across her tired face, and tears welled in her eyes once more. "You did it," she whispered. "You actually did it." "I applied early action back in November," I said, my voice barely a whisper. "I didn't tell Ethan because I knew he would try to talk me out of it. He always wanted me to go to Harvard so I could be near him, so I could help him study, so I could be his safety net. But I wanted my own life. I wanted to go somewhere where he couldn't touch me." On the day of the enrollment deadline, when Ethan had tried to force me to sign the Harvard form, I had crossed it out and handwrote my Yale acceptance code. I had submitted it directly to Mrs. Gable. I was free. A week later, I was discharged from the hospital. My left leg was encased in a heavy black boot, and I had to use a pair of metal crutches to walk. My head still throbbed if I stood up too quickly, and the stitches in my scalp were a constant, itching reminder of the fall. But as my mom drove us back to our small, two-bedroom house near the highway, the air felt lighter. When we pulled into the driveway, I expected to see our quiet, overgrown lawn. Instead, I saw 3 different news vans parked along the curb. Journalists with microphones and cameras were hovering near our front porch. "Oh, Lord," my mom muttered, her hands tightening on the steering wheel. What do we do? Keep driving, I said, my chest tightening. Don't stop. We drove to the diner. My mom's boss, a gruff but kind man named Artie, let us in through the back door. He made us a pot of black coffee and sat with us in a booth at the back, away from the windows. The whole town's in a frenzy, Mary, Artie said, wiping his hands on a kitchen towel. The school board held an emergency meeting this morning. They suspended Ethan and Chloe indefinitely pending the outcome of the police investigation. And that's not all. He leaned in, his voice dropping. I heard from a regular who works at the courthouse. The district attorney is pushing for a grand jury indictment. They're making an example out of them because of all the media attention. As if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I hesitated, then picked it up. April? It wasn't Ethan. It was a woman's voice, tight, controlled, and dripping with forced warmth. It was Ethan's mother, Victoria Vance Cole. April, dear, I'm so glad I reached you, she said. I know things have been incredibly stressful, but I think we need to sit down as adults and discuss this situation. Ethan is devastated. He hasn't eaten in days. Surely you don't want to ruin his entire life over a stupid, childish accident on the stairs? I listened to her voice, feeling a strange sense of detachment. For years, I had looked up to Victoria. She was the wealthiest woman in our neighborhood, always wearing designer clothes and hosting elegant charity galas. I used to feel so small when she looked at me. Now, she sounded small. She sounded desperate. Mrs. Cole, I said, my voice steady and cold. Your son didn't just cause an accident on the stairs. He stood by while I was humiliated. He knew my drink was spiked. He watched his girlfriend treat me like an animal, and he laughed. And then, when I finally tried to walk away from his control, he used physical force against me. He's a boy, April. He made a mistake. Victoria's voice lost its polished edge, turning sharp and frantic. He has a future at Harvard. Do you know what this arrest is doing to our family's reputation? The admissions committee called us this morning. They are reviewing his acceptance. If you don't drop the charges. I can't drop the charges, I interrupted her. The state is prosecuting him. Not me. And even if I could, I wouldn't. You ungrateful little brat, she hissed, the mask completely slipping off. Your mother works in a greasy spoon diner. We helped pay for your school supplies when you were kids. We gave you our hand-me-downs. And this is how you repay us? By destroying my son? Your son destroyed himself, I said. And please, don't call this number again. I hung up. I looked at my mother, who was watching me with a mixture of awe and concern. Are you okay, sweetie? I've never been better, I said. And for the first time in 3 years, I actually meant it. The trial did not happen overnight. The legal system moved with an agonizing, grinding slowness. By the middle of July, the grand jury had indicted both Ethan and Chloe. Chloe was charged with conspiracy to distribute non-consensual pornography and reckless endangerment for her role in the prom night spiking, while Ethan faced felony second-degree assault and battery. The school district, desperate to salvage its own reputation, officially expelled both of them just weeks before what would have been their graduation. They were banned from the campus, their diplomas withheld pending the legal resolution. And then came the final blow to their carefully constructed futures. One morning, while sitting on our porch steps practicing my physical therapy exercises, my phone alerted me to a press release from Harvard University. The statement was brief and clinical. In light of recent information regarding incoming freshman students Ethan Cole and Chloe Davies, Harvard University has rescinded their offers of admission for the fall semester. The university maintains a strict code of conduct and does not tolerate behavior that compromises the safety, dignity, and well-being of others. I stared at the screen for a long time. I thought about all those nights I spent crying myself to sleep while they mocked my weight, my clothes, and my mother's job. I thought about the physical pain of my fractured leg, the scars on my scalp, and the terrifying blank space in my memory from the night of the prom. They had thought they were untouchable. They thought the world would always bend to their wealth and status. But the world had finally pushed back. Late one evening in August, just a week before I was set to leave for Yale, I decided to walk down to the park near our old neighborhood. My leg had healed enough that I no longer needed the crutches, though I still walked with a slight, barely noticeable limp. The air was warm, smelling of cut grass and late summer dust. As I sat on a wooden bench near the duck pond, I heard the crunch of gravel behind me. I didn't turn around until a shadow fell over my feet. It was Ethan. I almost didn't recognize him. The golden boy of Oak Ridge High was gone. He had lost a significant amount of weight, his cheeks sunken and pale. He wore a plain, oversized gray hoodie with the hood pulled low, and his eyes were bloodshot and surrounded by dark, bruised circles. He looked exhausted, broken, and deeply afraid. April, he whispered. I didn't stand up. I didn't panic. I just looked at him, feeling absolutely nothing. No anger, no sadness, no lingering affection. Just a vast, empty space. Where my 10-year crush used to live. You shouldn't be near me, I said, my voice quiet. The restraining order says. You have to stay 50 yards away. I know. I'm leaving in 10 minutes, he said, his voice cracking. He didn't take another step forward, staying exactly where he was. My lawyers said I'm taking a plea deal next week. I'll probably get 2 years of probation, community service, and a permanent criminal record. I won't go to jail, but my life is over, April. No college will take me. My father took away my car, my trust fund, everything. We're moving away from here. Okay, I said. He stared at me, his eyes filling with tears. Is that all you have to say? Okay. We grew up together, April. We built fortresses in the woods. I used to carry your backpack when you hurt your ankle in middle school. How did we get here? How did you let them destroy me like this? I let out a soft, tired sigh. I didn't destroy you, Ethan. You did. I was trying to protect you, he yelled, a flash of his old, desperate anger breaking through. That night at the prom. I didn't spike your drink. It was Chloe's idea. I tried to grab the wrong cup, but she pressured me. And when you woke up, I didn't touch you, April. I swear to God, I didn't let anyone touch you. I threw that shirt at you because I wanted you to cover up before the others saw you. I was trying to save your dignity. By calling me a fat pig? I asked, my voice cutting through his frantic excuses. Like a scalpel. By telling me to forget it because it was just a joke. By staying in that group chat and watching 300 people mock me for 3 days while you sent me a message telling me not to take it too seriously. He flinched as if I had struck him. You weren't protecting me, Ethan, I continued, my voice steady and unwavering. You were protecting your standing. You were protecting your girlfriend, your reputation, and your own comfort. You liked having me around because I made you feel superior. I was the quiet, fat childhood friend who would always worship you no matter how badly you treated me. I stood up from the bench, brushing a stray leaf off my jeans. For the first time, I looked down at him. Even though he was taller than me, he felt incredibly small. But I don't worship you anymore, I said. I don't even think about you. April. He reached a hand out, but let it drop to his side, realizing there was nothing left to grab onto. Are you really going to Yale? Yes. Do you think you'll ever forgive me? I looked at him one last time, taking in the ruin of the boy I had loved for 10 years. No, I said simply. I don't think I will. I turned my back on him and walked away. I didn't look back to see if he was watching me. I didn't stop when I heard him let out a quiet, choked sob behind me. I just kept walking, my footsteps steady and rhythmic on the concrete path. A week later, the morning sun was just beginning to burn through the fog when my mom and I finished packing the trunk of our old, battered station wagon. We had packed everything I owned into 4 cardboard boxes and 2 duffel bags. It wasn't much, but it was everything I needed. My mom wiped her forehead with the back of her sleeve, looking at the packed car, then at me. She was wearing her Sunday dress, the nice one with the small yellow flowers. You ready, sweetie? She asked, her eyes shining with quiet pride. Ready, I said. As we drove out of our small town, passing the sign that read Welcome to Oak Ridge, I looked out the window. The high school was visible in the distance. Its brick facade looking cold and empty in the early morning light. I knew my life wouldn't be perfect. I still had physical therapy to finish, and the emotional scars of the past year would take time to heal. There would be hard days ahead, days when the memories of the prom night and the staircase would try to pull me back into the dark. But as the highway stretched out before us, open and endless, leading toward Connecticut and a future I had chosen entirely for myself, I felt a deep, quiet peace settle over me. The girl who had been pushed down the stairs, the girl who had been called a fat pig, the girl who had stayed silent for so long, she was gone. I had left her on the concrete floor of Oak Ridge High. And the person driving toward the horizon was someone entirely new.